Governor, thanks very much for your time this evening. I appreciate it.
Nice being with you, Liz.
It's good to see you. You have actually been very busy. You've been running around all over the country for Revere America.
Right.
It is not a PAC per se. It's a committee, right?
Right, that's right.
And what exactly are you doing? You've talked to us about it before, but just remind us.
Yeah, Revere America is an organization under the election laws that is doing two things. One is we're developing policy. And right now we're focusing on health care with particular emphasis on coming up with alternatives to Obamacare, because we think it is a terrible law that should be repealed, but we want to see it replaced with good health care reform. That's on the education side. Now, with less than 2 weeks before the election, we also have a political arm, and we are out there as Revere America, not endorsing candidates, but letting people in districts know who we believe is right on health care and right for the people of that district. Okay,
so when you say that you're letting people know, you're doing it through a TV ad campaign. You've got ads up here, a new one actually now that targets Representative Bill Owens in the North Country, and one that targets John Hall down in your neck of the woods in Hudson Valley.
That's right.
Also in New Hampshire. I'd like to take a look at that ad if you don't
Sure,
mind.
if I might though. We're doing three things. One is the ads. Another is appearances. I was with Anne Marie Burkle before, and I'm going to be with George Phillips in another district later on. And the third is that we have now almost 900,000 people who've signed our petition to repeal and replace Obamacare.
Didn't John Boehner just sign on?
John Boehner just signed on. And what we're doing is we're going to break them down by every congressional district in this country and let those signers in a district, like in the district you're going to be showing the ad, know who is on their side when it comes to health care.
Okay, let's talk about that in a second. Just take a look at this ad real quick.
Good.
Congressman Hall voted for Obamacare, government-run health care. It's a bad plan. Government bureaucrats will benefit. Seniors will get hurt. Costs will go up, care will go down. Longer waits in doctor's offices. Your right to keep your own doctor may be taken away. It's a plan we didn't want and don't need, but Hall voted for it anyway. Defeat Congressman Hall. Revere America is responsible for the content of this advertising.
So that's subtle.
Yes, it's about as subtle as the health care reform law that is going to take away health care as they like it for tens of millions of Americans.
Okay, but Media Matters, which, and you're familiar with this organization, calls this a slew of dishonest attacks on health care reform.
Every single thing in that ad is verifiable and is accurate, and we stand by it. Early on, the Times did an analysis, and we had a word that we said, well, maybe they could make an argument, so we changed it. But on this ad, I can tell you that we are very confident that every single one of those things that we're talking about.
But aren't you actually painting it pretty broad? I mean, government-run health care is not exactly what this reform law calls for. You get, for example, if you like your own insurance, you get to keep it.
No, you don't. That's one of the things that is wrong with this bill. President Obama, time and again, looked right into the camera and said, if you're happy with your health care, I guarantee you, you'll be able to keep it. And it's not the case. His own analysis after they passed the bill from HHS has analyzed now that 4 million, they estimate, senior citizens are going to lose Medicare Advantage. They estimate more than 10 to 20 million people are going to lose their private coverage, whether they want it or not. And just in the last week, we've seen a number of major American companies dropping their health care coverage and telling their employees, we're going to pay the fine. Good luck. You go find your insurance. So that was one of the things about this bill that we were told that is completely inaccurate.
Okay.
And one of the reasons it should be replaced.
So if what you say is true, that this is going to be the biggest issue going forward in, say, the next, I don't know, 4 years, let's argue, right?
Well, I hope not, because I hope we can sit down in a bipartisan way and resolve it and replace it with a better law relatively quickly. There's no reason why that can't be done. I think part of the problems for the last 2 years is that this argument over health care took all the oxygen out of the room, and focusing on jobs, focusing on creating opportunity, focusing on balancing the budget, all got lost. So there's no reason why this should take an extraordinary period of time.
But isn't this really, I mean, many people are speculating this is really about creating a vehicle for you to perhaps run nationally. Again, a White House bid, the last time around you didn't go all the way with it. You're in New Hampshire, it's an early primary state. You're in New York, that's your home state, obviously. You're creating names. You've got a database of almost 1 million names. That sounds like grassroots organizing to me.
Well, it is grassroots organizing, and the purpose is to put in place supporters for efforts to limit the size and the dictation from the federal government of what the people of this country want to do.
So you don't want to run for president then?
I have not even focused on that, because we are now how many days away from the election this November, and I think what is absolutely critical is that this election, the people stand up and say, we do not want politicians who think they're smarter than us, better than us, know more than us, dictating significant aspects of our life, like how we're going to get health care.
Okay, but you know what my next question is going to be, right?
No, I don't.
So
You're a very creative interviewer here, Liz.
You wouldn't rule it out, Governor?
You know, I learned enough from my 12 years as governor that you never say anything will never happen. We'll see. But in all seriousness, I expect there are going to be a lot of candidates out there. I'll be looking at them and seeing if there's one who I think is the right person who I believe can lead the country. And I'll see what that field looks like and what the American people are thinking after these elections.
You have spent, as far as I can tell, at least almost $1 million already on just these ads that are running in 2 states. That's 2 ads here, that's a couple ads running in New Hampshire. That's a lot of money. Where's that money coming from?
Well, we have donors who, everything from the small donors who have given $5 on the internet to some larger donors who care very strongly about the makeup of the House from a policy standpoint come this November 3rd. So it's across the board from small donors to some larger donors, but we are well, the technical term
C4.
is a 520, a C4, 501c4, right. I think is it. And our lawyers are doing everything in accordance with that law to make sure whatever disclosure is required is done. And to be perfectly honest, Liz, I don't know who all these donors are. I don't pay attention to that. I'm out there trying to get a policy message across for Revere America, and we let the lawyers and the accountants and the others deal with that.
And it's true, a C4 does not actually, specifically does not require the release of the information on the donors. But don't you think that people have a right to know, should know, who's behind these ads?
I wish we lived in a perfect world where that could easily be the case, but I don't know if you saw what happened where one of the corporations donated, and there was an organized boycott set up by Democrats to go against that company. So I think there is an effort to intimidate donors. So the law exists for a reason. And the balance between protection and openness, I always come down on the side of openness, but we're gonna just follow the rule of the law at this point.
So you're saying actually that there could be a backlash against corporations if people
or
knew
individuals
that they were trying to...
Or individuals. We've seen that with referenda and others where people whose names were disclosed had pickets, protesters, because they exercised their constitutional right to participate in the political process. Now, I'm not an expert in election law and the nuances of this, but I do believe that to the extent you have to balance it, I come down on the side of more disclosure than not. But when it comes to the standpoint of our organization, we're going to do what they all do, and that is make sure we comply completely with the law when it comes to disclosure or anything else.
Okay, so let's talk about New York politics for a second, if
Sure.
you would, because I know you still pay attention, and you are endorsing candidates.
I do. I care a lot about this state.
You're endorsing candidates today. Anne Marie Buerkle, as you mentioned.
Right.
George Phillips, in a race that just blew up all of a sudden in the 22nd Congressional District.
Right.
What do you think the effect will be from
And
Carl...
Matt Doheny. I was up in Plattsburgh earlier today, yes.
What do you think the effect will be from Carl Palladino?
Oh, I think New Yorkers split their ticket, and it's a very intelligent, aware electorate. And what they do in one race isn't going to affect what they do in another race. And not just further down the line like the House races we were just talking about, but the other statewide races. The voters of New York are going to go in and they're not going to say, well, he's on the ticket with so-and-so or she's on the ticket with the other one. They're going to look and say, these are the 2 candidates or 3 candidates, and this is the one I believe will do the better job. So I think we have a tremendous opportunity to restore a better 2-party balance to this state. And I think it would be a tremendous plus for New York if we didn't have a virtually entirely one-party state. That doesn't serve the people of this state well.
You once said that you expected that you would support Carl Palladino, even though he had called you a degenerate idiot. And
Which he has since apologized
The two of you had a conversation about that.
Right.
You have not yet endorsed him. It's about
Right.
12 days out. Will you endorse Carl Palladino for governor?
Well, I think if you want to be the governor of the state, and what I look at are 2 things. First of all are the position on the issues, because that matters enormously. And this state spends too much, it taxes too much. We need to reduce the size and the cost of the government and entitlement programs and have a more business-friendly climate. We have to cap property taxes. And on those issues, I think Carl Palladino is close to what the people of New York need and want. But you also have to show you have the ability to run the state if you get elected, and run it in the way where the people of the state have confidence in your leadership, and where they can have confidence that you don't just have an agenda that they agree with, but that you can implement that agenda. And that is what Carl needs to do. I don't believe he's done it yet. I hope he works hard over the course of the next almost 2 weeks and can convince the people of New York that he's not only right when it comes to the policies for this state, but that he has the ability to govern and lead this state that we need.
Do you think he has a temperament problem?
You know, I have heard stories about all the candidates, about some of their different times when they express anger, and sometimes they've done it in private, sometimes in public. And I'm not going to comment on people's personalities other than to say that the people have to have confidence in someone's leadership ability.
So are you still open to endorsing him? Because I still haven't heard that from you.
We'll see what happens over the course of the next almost 2 weeks. I believe he has the burden, and I think he knows this, and I think it's not just with me, it's with literally millions of New Yorkers who say, well, he might be close and right on the issues, but he has to show the ability to lead. I hope he can do that, because on the issues we are very similar on many of them. So I hope he has the ability over the next 12 days or whatever it is, not just to convince me, but to convince the New York voting populace that he has that ability. And if he does, I've seen elections change very quickly, and there's no reason why this couldn't either.
You know, just in parting, the Republican Party in the state is really sort of a little bit back on its heels. You know, the best hope that you have at this point has as many as 11 House races in play. That's amazing in a state that's as blue as New York.
It really is.
But it was supposed to be a Republican year, and yet you're seeing problems all over from a statewide perspective in the Republican candidacies. Are you disappointed in the way that things are going in the Republican Party in New York?
Well, you can always do better, and you always try to operate an entity, whether it's the Republican Party or the government of the state of New York, as close to perfectly as possible, and you're not going to get there because nothing operates perfectly. So you don't look back, you don't say maybe we should have done that, maybe we should have done that. You look forward. We have time between now and the election. I think the state will be far better served with a viable two-party delegation in Washington as opposed to a virtual one-party delegation. I think it will be better served if we have a balance in Albany, and instead of having the one-party rule by the Democrats as we've had for the last 4 years, we have Republican control in the Senate so we can have the checks and balances that the Founding Fathers envisioned. So I'm looking forward. I think the voters of this state understand the importance of this election and will judge elections based on the individuals in each particular race, and that gives me cause for optimism.
Well, I want to thank you very much for coming in, Governor Pataki. It's always good to see you.
Thank you, Liz. Always good being on with you.